All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rucha Kodash. All right. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Hour of Trial Upon the Whole World. And that's pretty much based upon uh, Revelation chapter 3, verse 10. And pretty much, I was watching this video here, Brighteon Broadcast News, September 11, 2024. Political theater distracts the masses as the anti-human U.S. empire burns. And pretty much one of the main things that they're burning in this place is pretty much the U.S. dollar, which is the world reserve currency. It became that way going back to 1944, 45, during the Bretton Woods Agreement. It also became, at that point, eventually in the 70s, the petrodollar. And the petrodollar meant that whenever anyone wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, they had to exchange or change their currency into the U.S. dollar in order to purchase any oil. And the promise of America was, to them as far as financial and actually the use of their military and to provide them with equipment, that they needed. So, here it is, fast forward to 2024, the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And we're seeing how the system is pretty much collapsing within itself. I typed in earlier, I typed in something because probably almost a week ago, I typed in trying to find out some information on if the Saudis actually renewed I don't know if you say charter or whatever the case may be for the petrodollar, because it was supposed to have been expired. And some of the research I did said that it wasn't. That was pretty much, as they call it, fake news from China. So we don't really know what's going on, but pretty much some of the related questions were, what if Saudi Arabia was to not use the U.S. dollar as a petrodollar? And they said pretty much in so many words that the U.S. dollar would be devalued, which is already being devalued if you really look at the buying power of the dollar today in comparison to just 10, 15, 20 years ago. This is why you'll go to the store and you'll see a small bag of chips that used to be maybe 25 cents. Now it's $1, 75 cents. Big bag of chips, what you could get for $1 back in the days, maybe $1.25. Now it costs about $4 or $5, $3.50, $4, $4.50, depending on where you go. You have something called shrinkflation. I've noticed products that I used to buy in the past that used to be bigger, or you get more bang for your buck, so to speak. Now, when you get it, the amount you get is a lot less than what it used to be, and it costs a lot more. And that is a direct result of inflation, which is not the prices of things going up, but it's just a devaluing of the currency that's in circulation. That's pretty much the true definition of inflation. And inflation, if left unchecked, will become hyperinflation, which means the money will double, triple, depending on, how it's doing in the stock market, so on and so forth. We always make mention of the Weimar Republic in Germany back during the 30s, where the Weimar Deutsche Mark, when it was being devalued, you had hyperinflation setting in, to where you would go to a restaurant and there was no prices on the menu, because if you ordered a steak dinner around 12 noon and didn't leave the restaurant till about 1, at 12 noon, the steak dinner could have been $200. And at 1 noon, at 1 o'clock, the steak dinner could have been $300 or $350. All right. And that's where this world is heading to. And that's why we believe that that's the main reason they're using this economic crisis worldwide to bring in the micro chip and have introduced this whole digital system, because in order for people to survive these days coming, they will have to take the micro chip, and that's what's going to be the main hour of temptation, or the great time of testing, as it says. I believe that's the NIV. And the name of this lesson, the hour of trial upon the whole world, which is another, I use part of another translation for that particular one. In Lord's will, we can get to that and read that. Matter of fact, let me read that real quick. So you get a chance, you can watch this. I watched about an hour of it between the other day and today. So I got to go back and, see what else he's saying. He's speaking about Kamala Harris, and, just speaking about a lot of different things. And, I believe he mentioned the dollar, so on and so forth. But you could go and watch it for yourself and see what he's talking about. So I'm gonna read some of the translations. Then I wanted to get into a little something that we were getting into on the Day of Atonement lesson that we did here in Indianapolis, and take it from there. Revelation chapter 3, verse 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, meaning we kept the word of the Lord's suffering, because it's, like the Apostle Paul said, you suffer fools gladly. We have to suffer the total blatant disrespect of the Lord's name, of the total dismantling of these different Hebrew Israelite camps that used to be Hebrew Israelites. Now they're turning into Christians. More and more as each day goes by, they're teaching more and more Christian dogma, Christian doctrine. I'm talking about plantation Christianity, and totally having a nonchalant attitude towards the true breakdowns of Yahweh Bashem Shai that were given to them by the elders going back to One West. So because we have kept the word of the Lord's patience, he said, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which is a great time of testing. The trial that's going to come, or the hour of trial that's going to come upon the whole entire earth, which means anyone that's within the system of the whole entire earth, meaning the infrastructure or the digital infrastructure. Because you do have, as Elder Apostle Tara pointed out a while back, you do have people that are still living in their primitive ways as they did back in the past, that are not interacting with, money or the system. They, pretty much have their own, they hunt, they plant, they're self-sufficient. They use the forest, and this is why they have a problem with Esau deforesting everything, because these devils will go to a particular land or area and claim something is polluted, and then claim that land to themselves, and they'll set fires down in the Amazon and other places, and just to burn the people out, because the people are against them, cutting down those trees to, sell, and then pretty much destroying the ecosystem of the planet. So it says, the Lord will keep us from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Now, when we read the NLT, I'm just going to go, I read the whole thing. Because you have obeyed my command to persevere. I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole world to test those who belong to this world. NIV, since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth. And that's what's coming. This one says, I will keep you from the hour of trial, the hour of testing, trial, testing. So it goes back between trial, testing, temptation, which when you look up the word temptation, it goes back to the word perismos, I think it was. Pydasmos. An experiment, attempt, trial, proving. Trial, proving the trial made of you by my bodily condition, since conditions serve as to test the love of the Galatians towards Paul, right? So you could have a man that's testing the love of his congregation or testing the love of his family, testing the love of his woman, you know, saying certain things to see how the person would react and what their answer or what their actions are when he asked them for something or asked them to do something for him. The trial of man's fidelity, integrity, virtue, constancy, right? Because it's one thing to be loyal in a time when everything is going well. That's why it says that a friend cannot be known in prosperity. But in trials and tribulations, even a friend will become an enemy, you know. So how do you know if a brother is really a brother or a sister is really a sister? Is during a time of afflictions. A brother is known in adversity. All right. It says an enticement to sin, temptation, right? And this is going to be an enticement to sin. Now, those that take the micro CHIP, which is the MOTB, that is a sin. But the MOTB in itself is not a sin in all its forms, whether political or religious. It says whether arising from desires or from the outward circumstances. See, so what are the arising desires from the outward circumstances? The system that they're going to put in place in order for people to do business. And that's why the MOTB is always predicated, and every scripture you read is always predicated about through or on buying and selling, because that is how they got control of everything. This is why Meyer Amschel-Bauer said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes the laws. And we could see now the way that the legislation is going, the direction that it's going, it's in favor of these big businesses. Why? Because they're introducing this new system that's going to go online, or that is already online, but they're slowly but surely, as for lack of better words, cornering the market, pushing it in order to, get people trapped into a corner, and then give them the option to choose, to save their skanky ass hide by accepting this device that they plan on putting in everybody. It's not just about buying and selling. It's about total control, as Alex Jones told Aaron Russo. Total control. It says an internal temptation to sin, of the temptation by which the devil sought to divert Yahushua the Messiah from his divine errand. Right, and Yahushua went through his hour of temptation. And what was the main hour of temptation? Because he was tempted by Satan and by many demons, because he was the final battle that he had to overcome in that 40-day fast that he had was Satan himself, the spiritual demon Satan, which is a high-level demon. But all throughout those 40 days, he was battling demons. But the final temptation came at the very end when he was at his weakest. And see, this is what these devils do. They wear people down. They wear people down little by little to where they have no more strength, whether physically or spiritually. And that's when they introduce, the very thing that's going to separate the elect of the nation of Israel from the non-elect. You see? And if you are a part of the elect, the Lord somehow, some way, no matter how desperate you may feel, is going to put the spirit in you to resist. You see, that temptation. It says the condition of things or a mental state. See, it's a mental state. And remember, Yahushua said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That's why he kept telling the disciples, watch. Watch as well as pray. And he showed us one of the prayers that we could say, which is the Father's prayer, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, by which we are enticed to sin or to a lapse from the faith and holiness. Adversity, affliction, trouble sent by the Most High, like he did in the case of Job, and serving to test or prove one's character, faith, holiness. temptation, an example, trial of the Most High by men, rebellion, and you know what? This trial of the Most High by men, right? So the Lord tests men, and when you go back to Gideon, Gideon pretty much tested the Lord by asking him to do certain things, to show him certain signs in order for him to know that the Lord really sent him to do this. Did not the Lord say, prove me? Let's see. This is in the book of, let's see. I know it's in Isaiah. Let me see if that'll come up this way. This one's going to be harder to find, but right, this is Isaiah, Isaiah 45:11. Thus saith Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, the Holy One of Israel, and his Maker, ask me of things to come concerning my sons, and concerning the work of my hands, command ye me. See? So the Lord is asking us to prove him. To prove him, whether he would do these things or not. I have made the earth and created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their hosts have I commanded. I have raised them up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, and he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai of hosts. All right, which pretty much goes into Yahushai. Let's go from there to same book of Isaiah 62:6. I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. And this is part of the proving of the Lord, going out here teaching and watching the prophecies unfolding right before our eyes. Ye that make mention of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, keep not silence, meaning teach, pray, send up supplications, prayers of deliverance, prayers of faith, prayers of healings, prayers of deliverance, curses against our enemies, curses against, prayers and curses against Babylon the Great, that the Lord destroy it as soon as possible, which Elder Pastor, gave a command not too long ago for brothers to do that. Sisters should also do it also. But I've been doing that for a while now. That's part of when I put up the curses, part of the curses is Abad Babal Hagatawala, which is destroy Babylon the Great, which is America. Why hasten the day? And give him no rest. See, give him no rest. How? By teaching and by crying out to the Lord. Hey, you got souls in the heavens that are at rest, praying to the Father. They're in their rest. They're not hurting. They're not in any pain. They're just lamping up there and still praying to the Lord. How long we do not avenge us on, avenge us on them that are on the earth that did these things to us. And the Lord told them, look, you got to rest until your brethren go through the same things that y'all going through. It says, till he established. See, we have not been established. There is an order going out that we're about to be established. There is a linking of bones, to the bones, the tribes coming back, the nation coming back. There is a cry out there, but the establishment has not been fully fulfilled because all Jakes don't accept that we're Israelites, and these nations definitely don't accept that we're Israelites. So it hasn't been established. So we have to keep crying out to the Lord until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Jerusalem is not a praise in the earth. If these devils were Israelites, as they claim to be, the world would be praising Jerusalem. They would be asking the way to to Zion. They would be asking the way to, learn about Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. They're not doing that. There would be no more wars on the planet. Everybody would get a fair shake. I mean, the nations would be in captivity, of course, paying for, what they're supposed to pay for. And also because that's what the Lord created them for. Created them to be our servants. And if they do the right thing, you treat them right. And if they do the wrong thing, you kick them in the ass. Bottom line. So Jerusalem is not a praise in the earth as of yet. So we're still in that great time. We're really entering the great time of temptation. It says rebellion against the Most High, by which his power and justice are, as it were, put to the proof and challenged to show themselves. All right, so let's bring this back. Now, a part of these devils' legislation that they use is contracts. Now, how is that accomplished? Well, when you go to the 14th Amendment, because remember the 13th Amendment said that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist in the U.S. And it goes on with different provisions. But the point here, it says in the 14th Amendment, Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And this is the thing that most people don't understand, is the word subject and the word jurisdiction. When you go to the word subject, right? Subject, a person or thing that is being discussed, described, or dealt with. That's like a subject, a topic. A branch of knowledge studied or taught in a school, college, or university that goes to something else, whatever your major was or whatever. A citizen or member of a state other than its supreme ruler. And what are those? Those are the people that are subjected or under the orders of that particular government. So now when you look up the word jurisdiction, right, which we have here in this law dictionary here that I found online, and I put these in the description box in case you want to go. I'm going to deal with want of jurisdiction, voluntary jurisdiction, and subject matter jurisdiction. And this is important to understand because when you're under somebody's jurisdiction, that means you agreed to the terms of their, whatever it is that they wanted you to do. So when you sign a contract, you're pretty much held liable for the provisions in the contract to fulfill those contracts, and you cannot be released from that contract until you fulfill them. So one of jurisdiction is lacking the authority or power, which the government does, because if you understand really the American government, and how they pretty much dupe the people, the laws that they're subjecting the average American under was only supposed to be for the people within the 10-mile radius of Washington, D.C. When you do the research, that those laws that they place upon the whole nation was only supposed to be subjected to those 10 miles. And it's within either in the Constitution or I forget exactly where it is, but you could do the research. And that's really the only people that it extended to. But when they brought about, through so-called civil rights and all that, they brought about, they brought about the 14th Amendment, and then through, the civil rights movement and all that, they got everybody subjected into it. And even going back to, what was it, 1935, with the Social Security Act. Okay. Then when you go prior to the birth certificates being signed and used as property to claim property, when you go back to the 1800s and prior to that whole system being in place, you would have families that would have, family tree Bibles, where they would have the names of the ancestors and the descendants written in there, and that's how they kept track of births. So what these devils did was they turned it around and made everybody sign a birth certificate. So now they have on record, how many people in the U.S., and how many people are subject to them. Because when you look at the birth certificate, it's being traded on the open stock market because we are property. We're not sovereign. We're property, and that came by way of contracts. You have something called an adhesion contract. Adhesion is something that glues you together. So what glues you, a person, to a contract? Their signature, right? So one of jurisdiction is lacking the authority or power, such as a judge who exceeds his or her power to hear a case, or a court which hears a case for which it does not have authority to hear. So now how do you get authority to hear? By when the person that's being accused or the person that's being addressed gives consent to the court. By what? By signature. And how do you do that? Shalom, my brother, come on in. How do you do that? You do that by way of contracts, signing contracts. Your mother does it at the beginning. Shalom. Yeah, shalom. Yeah. Your mother does it at the beginning by signing. I got some coffee there if you want to heat it up. By signing, the birth certificate. Later, as you grow, you have to get, at that time you get your social security card, right? You have to sign for that. You get a driver's license, you have to sign for that, and different contracts that you have to sign with the government in order to be able to maneuver in this system. Okay, so therefore that binds you to the jurisdiction that they've pushed upon the nation. That 10-mile radius of Washington D.C. This is why when you go to any court of law, you have an American flag with the yellow fringes around it, which represents Admiralty Maritime Law, or the law of the high seas, which they're using on the people that are on land. You see? GMS North Carolina 777, Baruch 3 and 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, and that's true, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments. And why are we subject to payments? Because of these contracts, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. Okay, another brother put it up, Ibat Shalamoth. All right, so that's want of jurisdiction. So if they have no adhesion contracts, they cannot charge you or exact or demand from you payment. Voluntary jurisdiction is in the ecclesiastical law. Jurisdiction is either contentious jurisdiction or voluntary jurisdiction. And this is why sometimes you hear somebody say that I'm signing this contract, because they're threatening to put them in jail. I'm signing this contract under coercion. I'm being coerced, or I'm being forced to sign this, or else I'll receive a penalty. So let the record reflect that I'm being charged, or I'm being made to sign this contract against my will and without my consent. Okay? Jurisdiction is either contentious jurisdiction or voluntary jurisdiction. In most cases, it's voluntary jurisdiction. So we, as a nation, have been voluntarily, become slaves and given up our jurisdictional sovereignty for these different contracts that they said that we had to have. But it begins with the birth certificate. Isaiah 10:1, we're going to get back to that. Isaiah 10:1, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and they write grievousness which they have prescribed. What are the unrighteous decrees? Unrighteous laws. Because they don't really tell you that you don't really need, these contracts, but because the people don't know, they're not going to volunteer the information. You see, that's why in the courts are a revolving door. And as far as jurisdiction goes, you can't be in family court, right? You can't be a judge or a magistrate in a family court and be able to preside over a traffic violation case, because that's out of your jurisdiction, or a criminal case, because that's out of your jurisdiction. You're only licensed to practice in the in whatever capacity is given to you, according to those contracts. So when we jump down to the 20th verse, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. See, so how are we staying upon him that smote us? By the contracts that we signed to him, and we still have to go to him for this to renew your license or to, renew your registration, or whatever the case may be. Pay a fee, pay a fine, taxes, whatever the case may be. Right? But shall stay upon the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shai, the Holy One, in truth. So the truth is what's going to make us free, as Yahweh Shai said. But this is why Yahweh Shai, because remember, the wicked Pharisees and Sadducees tempted him. Said, who should we serve Caesar or should we serve the Most High, or something along those lines? And he said, show me a coin. And he said, whose superscription is on it? And they said, Caesar's. He said, well, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, but unto the Most High, what's the Most High? Most High's. Because in being in subjection to this man's laws, there is an exemption to that. If the subjection that we have to abide by does not go against the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Shai, of course we have to comply. But if it goes against the commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Shai, then we don't have to comply. And that's where the great time of testing is going to come in, because they've lumped it all together as one. This is why you did have a separation between state and religion. Okay? So we jump down to the 27th verse, and it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulders, and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. Okay? And what is the anointing? This truth. So dealing with the jurisdiction, by the latter term is understood that kind of jurisdiction which requires no judicial proceedings, as the granting letters of administration and receiving the probate of wills, right? Because you voluntarily gave up your rights. That's why when they read you your rights or they talk to you, be in charge. They said, do you understand the charges against you, or do you understand that you've given up your rights? Because they have to have you on record as saying that they told you about it and that you agreed. See, Jake doesn't pay attention to what goes on in these courts, So now subject matter jurisdiction is authority or power over a type of event or legal questions that may be involved in a case. E.g., or example given, a divorce court is a civil court or limited jurisdiction and is not empowered to adjudicate or hear a case or decide on a case involving criminal matters and punishment, because they lack that jurisdiction. You see? So that goes into this 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. How? By contracts. The elder Malcolm Khan, Esau departmentalizes wickedness so he can have plausible deniability when he is committing color of law fraud. Right. Because the color of law is a representation of, it has the appearance of law, but it is not law at all. Because they have no jurisdiction. But they have to make you or force you or have you voluntarily agree to these terms. And that's where a lot of Jake get caught up in the fray. So it says, subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. You see? And they understand that once you give up your rights, you really have no rights. Therefore, you're under their jurisdiction. That's why you could come through there. You can have all the evidence you need, and they could still rule against you. Nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And when we jump to section 5, The Congress shall have power to enforce, see, by appropriate legislation. That's why you have all this legislation going on. The provisions of this article. And it's all based on what? Legislation. And they know this. That's why when you go back to the book of Revelation, if it'll let me, 13, and 11, it says, and this is America coming back as an ancient Roman Empire. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, which is in these times now when America was first born, so to speak. And he had two horns like a dragon, which represents their two-party system, Democrats, Republicans. And he spake as a dragon. A dragon is known for its cruelty and is also known for being very keen, very wise, very perceptive. And these devils have studied all of these ancient ways of these different nations and put them all into one. This is another reason why it's called Babylon the Great. All right. And when you look up this word dragon, it goes back to the word drakon. Right. And the word drakon goes back to a dragon, great serpent, a name for Satan, which is really Esau. All right. And the only thing that it has to do with the spiritual demon Satan is that they're the sons and daughters of Satan. And that's it. All right. And that goes into what? Into their legislation. You have an individual by the name of Draco. He was a Athenian lawgiver that was known for his extreme punishments, whether the crime was a minute crime or a heinous crime or serious crime. You still get the same punishment. For whatever, you could steal a piece of bread or you could kill a person and you still get the same judgment. And this is what they're bringing in, draconian measures, draconian legislation. And that's why these corporations are paying the politicians to pass these, including the presidents, vice presidents and all that, to pass this legislation so that they can enforce these mandates on the people because they have a plan, which is, this digital system that's coming in place, the micro chip. So you got your 14th Amendment, you have your jurisdiction, and within that, when you sign these contracts, what you become is a corporation. Okay? Because what is it? Well, let's type in, what does it mean when a name is in all capitals or all caps? Capital letters without any lowercase letters. In typography, text or font in all caps, short for all capitals, contains capital letters. I didn't ask you what the fuck it was. I asked you what does it mean, ass neck. Name spelled in all capital letters, the name of a dead person. This is why you see the tombstones of people are all caps. It's a fictitious name. Right. An all capitalized name is not a proper noun. Is not a person, place, or thing, and is not a true name. Your all capitalized name on a credential or any other government document is not a proper noun. So what is another name for that? Another name for that is a straw man. What is a straw man? Well, I looked up the definition of straw man in this dictionary, and look what it said. Dummy. Now, what is a dummy? A dummy is just not a stupid person, even though it is. But a dummy is what? Like a crash test dummy. It's a person that's in there that's really not alive. And they use it, to test, cars and, how they crash and how they hold up to crashes. So a dummy is somebody that stands in without an opinion, without anything. like the straw man in the Wizard of Oz. A straw man, a middleman. See? So a straw man is a dummy. And I have this here, meet your straw man, a roadmap to understanding the present legal status of Americans today. The twin you never knew you had. As a child, you have had an imaginary friend. You may be surprised to learn that evidence exists that you have had a make believe twin from the time your mother and father permitted a birth certificate to be filed for you, because it begins with the birth certificate. This make believe friend is not real but artificial. It is a straw man. And if you know anything about the straw man, right, in the Wizard of Oz, why was he known as the straw man? Because what did he want? He wanted a heart, meaning he wanted to be alive. Because the only thing he was a goddamn dummy. He was just a non-opinionated or not able to stand up for his rights individual. An artificial entity that has a name very similar to yours. But what's the difference? Your name is spelled with first letter capital, rest lowercase, second name, your last name, first letter capital, the rest of the letters smaller case. That's a proper name of a person. But when it's all caps, it's no longer a proper name, it's a straw man. The definition: a front, a third party who is put up in name only to take part in a transaction. And that's what it is, because through these contracts, that's how they're able to make transactions and make you subject to jurisdictions, to make you subject to payments through these contracts. So we weren't just physical slaves to Esau, we were also contractual slaves, because remember, the 13th Amendment said that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, right? Here we go right here. 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. See? So now, if they charge you with a crime, which they just do for the hell of it, just to get you on the hook, you become what? A servant. You become free labor. You see? So going back, it says nominal party to a transaction. So you are just a party to this transaction. It's from the Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. I think they're up to the 12th edition now. The term is also used in commercial and property context. So we are nothing but property. This is why it says, let's go to Isaiah chapter 51 and verse 14. The captive exile hasteneth that he may be loose. So we're captives in exile. What is exile? Meaning you're taken or ripped from your land, brought to another land against your will. Captive exile, all in one. Taza'ai. To stoop, bend, incline, right? Because we're royalty that were forced to bend the knee to these devils. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 7. I have seen servants upon horses. Who are the servants? Esau. And a very good depiction of this is that statue. I believe they took it down. That was in New York in front of the museum. I forgot the name of that museum. That had Teddy Roosevelt, who was an Edomite, which is a servant, up on a horse. When you're up on a horse, that's a place of prestige or a prestigious status. You were known as an equestrian. You know, you had a status, a noble status among the people. Now they've taken, the basic men have taken the noble status of people, and we've gone down to the vassal or servant state. It says, and princes, which are the Israelites, walking as servants upon the earth. So it's been a total role reversal. All right. So, yep, the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. which goes into that's the UCC code is pretty much the code books of contract, how to deal in contractual law. You know, it says the term is also used in commercial and property context when a transfer is made to a party, the strawman corporation, simply for the purpose of retransferring to the transferor in order to accomplish some purpose not otherwise permitted. Right? So they use the strawman to make transactions to draw money from us, which is not lawful to do, except they do it in that fashion, in a commercial type of way, corporation to corporation. So in layman's terms, what is a straw man? The straw man is an artificial person. The straw man was created by law shortly after you were born via the registration of the application for your birth certificate. The name for the straw man is your name in all capital letters. You will know that. Now, you brothers and sisters out there, look at your different court statements or whatever, whether if they send you or like if you get a ticket or if you get, parking ticket or whatever, look at your name on that. And you're going to see it's all in capital letters. That is a fictitious entity. The English language has precise rules of grammar that make no provision for writing proper nouns in all capital letters. So your name spelled with all capital letters is a fictitious name, which is a fake name. Your straw man has a strange sounding name as your name, but is an artificial entity which exists only by force of or in contemplation of law. See, it all goes back to law. So, Lucky, I got to take a drink. Oh, that's brisk, baby. Woo. It says the all caps name is not your true name, which consists of the given Christian name plus the surname family name and appears with only initial letters capitalized. It's the first letter of each name. The all caps version of your name is a trade name, right? Trademark. Look at Nike. Look at all these different Timberland and all these different name brands, Gucci, Prada, all them different name brands. You're going to notice, if not all of them, which I believe all of them, but the majority of them are all capital letters. That is a corporation, not an actual entity. Let's see. The brother put the statue of Teddy Roosevelt on a horse with two figures, one Native American and one African American, so-called, which is Gad and Reuben. I'm sorry, which is Judah and Gad, was located outside the American Museum of Natural History. There you go, American Museum of Natural History in New York City. But it has been removed due to criticism of its depiction of racial hierarchy. It is currently being prepared for a contextualized exhibit at the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in Medora, North Dakota. The name under which you do what? Business. So what is your straw man? The name under which you do business. That's why if you run a red light, if you run a stop sign, you'll get a ticket and you have to pay it, or else you get points on your license. You may get your license suspended, so on and so forth. Get your car towed, so on and so forth. Yep. The straw man puts you in the legal or representative capacity to be sued, because you can't be sued directly as a person. That's why when these people set up, these different corporations, there's certain provisions that allow them to put their assets, other places, and use these different corporations as frontmen, so that they will not be solely or directly sued. The strawman is a legal intuit. Okay. Oh, entity. Oh, okay. It's entity. 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 Because I'm about to say, damn, you got a new one on me, brother. Intuit. Do you mean like intuition? I'm just messing around. The twin you never knew you had, and it goes on and on and on with the same thing, civil law, and you can read this when you get a chance. I see they got a still here of the wizard Rothschild. This is the Rothschild. You have Dorothy. You have the Tin Man. You have the cowardly lion, and you have the scarecrow. See, and this is what the majority of people represent. Now, in the original one, I believe, I'm not sure if she had, I believe the original story, the book, she had on, I believe it was shoes made of rubies, if I'm not mistaken, or was it silver, something like that. And they were walking on the what? The yellow brick road. The yellow brick road represents what? That represents the money trail, which is the gold, which is owned by the Rothschilds and the international banking families. All right, these devils are very devious. This distinction between a man and a person is a difficult concept to grasp. Not really, but a proper understanding of the relationship between the government, the man, and the straw man is essential to gaining increased freedom. And we're gonna get the freedom when Yahweh Shai comes back. That's why he said he's coming back to purchase the purchased possession, or to get the purchased possession. The importance of redemption, Yahweh Shai is gonna bring the redemption. All right. So, in closing, I'm gonna read some of these precepts that brothers put up. Nahum 1 and 3. If brother could put up, what is that? Is that Habakkuk? Therefore, judgment does never go forth. Wicked, something like that. Brothers know where that scripture's at. Babakusha, if you can grab that. Nahum 1 and 3. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. He won't acquit them because they're evil. The Lord had his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. Proverbs 4:16. For they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause something to fall. And that's exactly what they do. Dorothy's Ruby, the water, bro. A straw man. A weak. Oh, no, I was messing with you, brother. GMS Survival of the Furnace. God damn, that's a bad name. It's usually Survival of the Fittest, but that brother says Survival of the Furnace. Shit. So that's a bad mother that comes out, comes forged out, he becomes steel at the end of that. Salakia, laugh a lot. That's no worries, bro. I just made a little joke of it. A straw man, a weak or imaginary opposition as an argument or adversary. Right. You can have an argument or you can have an actual person set up only to be easily confuted. A person set up to serve as a cover for usually questionable transactions. Dorothy's ruby slippers and the Wizard of Oz. Dorothy's, where is it? Shit. Dorothy's ruby slippers and the Wizard of Oz were made from a variety of materials. The base of the slippers was a pair of white silk pumps from the Inner Shoe Company in Los Angeles. Yeah, but there was more to it. There was because she was walking on the yellow brick road, which represented the road to gold, and that's why the gold road or yellow brick road led to who? The wizard that was behind the scenes. That represents the Illuminati. And who was behind the scene is old, decrepit old bastard, which represents the Rothschilds. Habakkuk 1 and 4, therefore the law is slack, the water, bro, and judgment does never go forth. Right. So the law is slack. Why? Because the ones in power got the whole system twisted, because the Lord used them to do that in order for Esau to be able to have total dominion over us. And we be total servants because we need to be delivered. Therefore the law is slack and judgment does never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous. Therefore wrong judgment proceeded. That's why you don't really get a fair shake, in the court of law. Because you don't have any rights. Why? Because we are fictitious entities. Look at your license, your driver's license. Your name is in all caps. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull out my license right now. Yep. Name in all caps. That's not the name of a person or of an actual, of a representation of yourself. That is a straw man, a fictitious person, someone that doesn't exist for the purpose of being used for these business transactions. And that's one of the reasons why the Lord said, matter of fact, let's finish out with this scripture in Isaiah chapter 14. And the Lord is revealing these devils. Isaiah 14 and 4. that thou shalt take up this proverb. So matter of fact, I'm going to start at 3 because beginning of the redemption is what? Through the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Bashem Shai. Him tapping into our spirit to reveal the truth to us so that we can be free mentally. And that'll begin our quest or our trek to the end, which is the salvation of Yahweh Bashem Shai. And it shall come to pass in that day, what day? The day when Yahweh Shai comes back to deliver us, or just before he comes back to deliver us, that Yahweh Bashem Shai shall give thee rest from thy sorrow. So just before we are redeemed to go into the kingdom of heaven, and from thy fear, right, because that's part of the curses, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. So when we're about to be delivered, these are the things that are going to be taking place, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased, right? Because how did they oppress the people? By putting them in a servant status through debt. You have something called debt slavery. And how is that accomplished? By all these different contracts, right? It says here, when you go to the word oppressor. Now, an oppressor could be somebody that whoops your ass physically, or he can whoop your ass economically. Nagash. It says to press, drive, oppress, exact. What is exact? Demand payment against your will, wickedly. Exert damaging pressure, right? So they're putting the pressure on us by these contracts. That's why every so often you got to renew your license, you got to renew your insurance, you got to renew your registration, so on and so forth. All right. See, then you got taskmaster, ruler, oppressor. All right. Then you have this golden city, which does represent America, being at one time the beacon of light to the world, to come here to get a better life, but then they've been duped. But this also, golden city also means exactress of gold. Madahabah, which means boisterous, raging behavior, boisterous behavior. Golden city, exactness of gold. And when you look up the word exact, it's either right and exact, or demand and obtain something, especially a payment from someone. And how do they do that? By these contracts. That's why people have to pay taxes, which was a voluntary thing during World War II, during the victory tax. And then after World War II, they were supposed to stop it, but they kept it going because they saw how much money they were making. It's a whole lot of fuckery going on. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.